there is one politician who has been able to market the everyman aesthetic to win people over with that kind of regard in a kind of right populist angle. And that man is, Lefty's favourite and the BBC's favourite, Nigel Farage, who has announced that he is quitting politics again for the fourth time. He is standing down as a UK party leader. So he's quitting as the UK Reform leader, having quitted as UKIP leader twice and the Brexit party leader once. And then there's the UK. Then there's the Reform UK party, which essentially is just the Brexit party, but with a different branding now that Brexit's happened. Right now, this is not to say that he's leaving the political sphere. Wish he could quit playing Minecraft. True. Shouldn't say that while I'm streaming on Twitch. But anyway, he has not quit politics in general, just party politics specifically. I mean, to be fair, party politics hasn't gone particularly well for him, considering he stood for election. Considering he stood for election in the general and has lost 7 times. How successful! But he's just quitting specifically party politics. He'll still be a pundit. He'll still be giving his misinformed opinions on garbage and spouting anti-Semitic conspiracy theories, and completely being unchallenged on any of these issues. And he's also still going to be the main stakeholder in the Brexit party in accounts. He's still going to be making money off politics. He's not going to be the face of the party. It was changed to, what's the person called now? I swear it said in this article. Oh, Richard Tice, a property developer. I guess these two absolute men of the people, former investment broker and property developer, clearly paragons of the working class. I think he's still is he still an LBC? No, he left last year. Thank fuck. So, he's quit from being the Reform Party leader. Now, what is the legacy of Nigel Farage? That's an interesting question. That's an interesting conversation to have. What is his actual legacy? And what he's done over his course of his, foray into the party political arena. Now, the first thing we have to talk about is obviously Brexit, because this is the singular thing that I think he's actually succeeded on. He intended, which, to his actual credit, he's never faulted this, because he was part of the referendum party during the 90s and early 2000s, and then they're part of UKIP, and their single party policy, right, was getting the UK to leave the European Union, and he succeeded. That is the singular thing that he's succeeded at. He's never won an election for an actual parliamentary seat. He's never been an MP because he keeps losing, right? But his continual push to divide the Conservative Party on European issues has got to the point where he got what he wanted. The UK has left the European Union, and the reason why he's quitting politics now, he said, is because in a post-Brexit world, now the deal's been ratified and been sent off as of December last year, or whatever it was, he feels like his job in party politics is done now. He's got what he wanted. And that's all. You know what else that he got that he wanted? Lots of money. Where did that money come from? Well, apart from a lot of money that he got from donations from very rich people to get Brexit passed. Wonder why that might have been. But also a lot of money from the European Parliament. Funny that someone who hates Europe so much is so happy to be employed by them as a member of the EU Parliament. Very funny that. Is he the political equivalent of Alan Partridge? Oh my god, that reminds me of the best image. Let me find it. Literally, you could not make it up. You could not make it up. Clearly, there you go. Look at man of the working. Let me find it. There we go. We couldn't make it up there. Man of the working class, very clearly. With so working class, he can afford to pay for his own flotilla for his own political party and his own political movement. Oh, the biggest the biggest grift of this man's career is convincing the general public that he was a man of the people, right? His interests, his material interests, are completely different from every single working class person in this country, right? There is nothing that he, like, if you're watching this and you're a big Nigel Farage, Nigel Farage stan, right? You love him and you love what he does. This man, and you're working class, you work a salary job, right? You earn like, I don't know, like 30k a year or something. This man is your enemy. He does not want what you want. He is an ex-investment banker, right? He specifically was given money by other very, very rich people to make Brexit happen so that, they could essentially lobby the Conservative Party to remove people's working rights. Remember the working time directive that was threatened in the post-EU world? That's something that they want that doesn't benefit you. Like, you may think, right, that you agree on him on a lot of social issues, right? Maybe, say, immigration or, cultural issues about, maybe you've bought into this kind of cultural Marxism myth or whatever. How much do these issues affect your day-to-day life in comparison to the way in which you being able to have X amount of holiday pay, or the actual amount you get paid at the end of every year, or, the amount of time that you have to work, the employer makes you work, because again, you can limit that because of the working time directive, right? How much out of those two things, which impacts your life more? If after all this, you still think that, the nasty brown people coming over and taking our jobs whilst also simultaneously being on benefits, how does that work? Then I don't know how to reach you. Because at the end of the day, this guy's material conditions are completely diametrically opposed to every single member of the working class, right? And I mean, let's be clear. Immigration benefits the whole country, and that's economically proven. I'm not going to get into a debate about that because that could take forever. But this man has sold you on the idea that just because he stands there with a cigarette and he stands there with a beer in the pub means that he's like you. You have been lied to, and this is the grift of this man's career. This is the legacy of this man's career, is his ability to convince people. Because he's a great orator. He's a great orator. Like if anyone is like the opposite to Keir Starmer, it's this man, right? He knows exactly how to draw in a crowd, exactly what to say to rile people up. He also knows very well how to parrot conspiracy theories, which would not be seen as particularly politically correct in this day and age, especially not in a post-EHRC report world, because he's been using anti-Semitic conspiracy theories, not only cultural Marxism, which has been, a bedrock of the conspiracy theory world for quite a while now, but he's also said that there's a Jewish lobby, because the percentage of Jewish people is quite small, but in terms of influence, quite big in terms of money and influence. That's a very powerful lobby. I wonder what that could be alluding to, Nigel. It's not a legacy of consistently supporting fascists in Europe, such as Marine Le Pen or Geert Wilders or Action für Deutschland. Right, all these far-right, neo-fascist political parties that he support, or the fascist political actions of Donald Trump, right? This man is it's exactly rivers of blood, isn't it? Like, if you think that this man represents your interests when he's specifically saying these things to divert your interest away from the people who really should be the target of your ire, which is the people who employ you and have a vested interest in making your life worse. Because at the end of the day, what makes your life better, right? Having more, higher wages, more holidays, better workers' rights, having a more empowered public sector that gives us free public services, right? Better healthcare. These are all things that we as a population, as the working class population, we all benefit from. If you look at things that immigrants benefit from, they benefit from all of these things as well, right? We should be natural bedfellows. Yet these people, these investment bankers and these employers and all these kind of people who specifically want lower wages and less taxation on large businesses so that there's any decrease in public spending, and they want you to work harder for longer hours with fewer holidays that they have to pay, and less sick pay and less health coverage and all that kind of stuff and things like that. These can you not see how the interests that you have are completely opposite to that of the people like Nigel Farage, but are very similar to that of immigrants, right? Now, there's obviously, people say, oh, coming over taking our jobs, right? First of all, like, how do you think, like, how many, like, the best way, whenever you get someone who says that, there's not enough jobs to be able to accommodate immigrants and things like that, the question I would always ask them is, how many jobs are there? And they go, I don't know how many jobs are there. And then you go, okay, right, so how would we decide how many jobs that there would be, or how do we find out what controls where all the jobs come from? And they go, oh well, by having by having companies that, specifically in a capitalist system, right? We have companies that employ people. Okay, why would a company employ someone? Because they want to sell more products and they do these things. Okay, why would a company hire more people if they have more customers? Okay, right, sure, if they have more customers, they need to do more work, they need to hire more people. Okay, so what happens if the entire customer base of the whole country increases? If there are more consumers, what happens? Okay, there needs to be more jobs. Who's going to take those jobs? Immigrants. Simple. So that one question, when they say that immigrants are taking people's jobs, you just ask them how many jobs are there, and the only possible end of that conversation is them coming down on the side that maybe immigration is fine, right? Or to disavow them from this idea that immigrants steal people's jobs. Because at the end of there's not an unreasonable idea that they pose some kind of strain on like public services, specifically like health service and things like that. But considering that immigration not only benefits working people because the consumer base increases, but it also benefits business owners as well, in that they generate more wealth when there is a bigger immigrant population. Gives us more reason to tax them higher. If they're making more profits because of immigration, we can then tax them, and then not only take those tax benefits and then put them back into the public sphere to make the lives of every working person, immigrant or native born, make them all better through taxation. We can also do that to make the public services better that would also be strained by the excess population, right? This is economies of scale. Do you think that just because China has billions of people in it, it means that suddenly their public services are more strained? No, they have more people, they have more taxable income, which means that they can, or I guess it's different in their kind of their society or whatever, but the same principle of economies of scale still apply in these cases, right? But I think it's easy. I think it's easy to move individual people over on these issues, right? Like, we have to, as I was mentioning in the last segment, we have to, as people on the left, try and turn people around from liberal idealisms towards historical materialism, and not even historical, but just materialist philosophy in general. We have to get people to think about their own material conditions rather than thinking about, ideals, as I mentioned before, like the idea that we should live in we should have racialized communities or whatever, in the fact that, there are a lot of working class white people who will say that they just don't like the idea of immigrants coming in because they just don't like brown people. They don't like the cultural change that's happening. They think gentrification is because of immigration when it's not. It's because of rich people. But even so, if we actually get people to think about their material conditions in these kind of ways, that's how we're going to be able to change people's minds, right? Because at the end of the day, people are beholden to ideas at this point because of liberal politics. Like, it's been obfuscated for so long, and people have completely ignored their own material interests in favour of these narratives, because that's what people build. That's what media exists to build, is narratives. And that's what Nigel Farage was really good at. His legacy was building a narrative, and he used that narrative not only to sell Brexit to people, but then also be able to use his influence. And remember in the 2019 election, Labour lost that election, not specifically because the Conservatives did better, but people turned away from Labour to the Brexit Party, right? People felt betrayed by the Labour Party on this issue. And it was just a really good narrative that Nigel Farage spun. He played spoiler. Like, the vast majority of these these new Labour seats that we wouldn't have expected to turn to the Conservatives. These Labour seats were lost not because the Conservative portion of the vote increased, but because Labour people moved over to UKIP. The Brexit Party. We have to win these people back by appealing to their working class material interests and getting them to think about that, rather than them to think about the narrative that gets sold to them by the liberal media. Now, I do not doubt that we will be seeing plenty of Nigel Farage in the years to come. He will still be using his platform on Twitter, on new media, on social media, on alternative media or whatever, to be able to get his points across. And I think, because at the end of the day, this man is an agent provocateur. Not only is a grifter, because not grifter. I think grifter is someone who espouses different political espouses different political positions to that which they actually hold, specifically for clout, right? Although it's definitely true, the Parliamentary Labour Party definitely had lost touch with the grassroots base, and regular Labour Party members were turned off by Corbyn. Like, let's not be real. Like, they were turned off by Corbyn partially due to the media narrative that was built around it, but partially through the fact that Corbyn wasn't a very good leader. He wasn't particularly enigmatic in a way that was never going to win over win over traditional Labour Party voters. He won over new voters, right? So I think 2017 was a really good success for Corbyn, and it brought over new voters to Labour. But at the time 2019 rolled around, his image had been so tarnished in a post Brexit kind of world, or post Brexit deal world anyway, that his time to bring people to Labour had finished, and we needed a different approach rather than trying the same approach twice. Because I think he'd done all the good he could do at that point. But anyway, I digress. Going back to Nigel Farage, I've been trying to talk about the whole segment, it just ended up talking about Corbyn and Labour. But yeah, because he played spoiler about that election. We'll still see him through new media, because this guy's, as mentioned, he's a national provocateur, not a grifter. I think he's very sincere in the political policies that he espouses. I think he's very sincere. I don't think he's sincere in the reasons why, which is specifically to benefit, the rich and his mates in the financial sectors and things like that, right? Because those are the people who pay his bills at the end of the day. Jeremy was pretty dope, British Bernie. Yeah, but Bernie Sanders was good at speaking to people, whereas Corbyn just wasn't. Like, his policies were fantastic, I'm not going to lie. I really loved his manifesto, but having good policies is one thing, as we all know, people don't actually engage with policies, they engage with narratives. That's what we have to change the discourse around, and it's going to be hard, but we need to work on it. With Nigel Farage, what was in this Guardian article? Let me just bring it out one sec. Because he's still going to be involved with Reform UK from a kind of a philosophical statement, philosophical, from a kind of financial statement, and he's going to be involved in some amount of party running, but he's not going to be the leader anymore, and he's not going to be involved in party politics. He's not going to try and get elected, but he's still going to be part of the media kind of apparatus and things like that. So in the interview, he said this is two main focuses. It will be the influence of China in the UK, the woke agenda, literally the indoctrination of children from primary school all the way through university, with now a completely different interpretation of history. It's clearly he's just in a post-Brexit world, now that all of this kind of stuff is kind of blown over and he doesn't really care anymore, he's just going to be able to do what generates the most clicks and allows him to be a media figure that pays his bills, and appealing to this kind of this conservative anti-wokeness, anti-cancel culture war bollocks is the way all of these conservative talking heads generate their clicks nowadays. So I can't say I'm very surprised.